I actually have a question on the current development. Could you fill us on what's happening at Treetops?
Chair, I'll handle the current development overview. And on the Treetop apartment project, the current status of that is that the staff is working with the contractor. They continue to work on the renovation of that project. We've had a series of meetings with them. They have not completed that work yet, and it's still underway. So they continue the renovation work. We don't have a date as to when that will be completed at this time.
The first two buildings were supposed to open last summer. Is that not on schedule anymore?
It's not on schedule. So they're continuing the renovation work. We're not sure when that's going to be completed yet. And when we have more information, we'll provide that to you.
Through the chair.
Commissioner?
When that was approved, one of the concerns that was mentioned fairly often was the quality of construction to resist the sea breezes, and also the verification that what was being left of the existing was in reasonably good condition to be used as a basis for future construction. Do you know, has this process been working okay?
They have a variety of consultants and experts working with them in terms of the reconstruction. So they understand their objective. They're working to accomplish that. And they've had some regular check-ins with staff, and they're continuing to do the renovation work. So they understand the objective. And when the project is ready to move forward for completion, for certificate of occupancy, we'll let you know. But right now, they're continuing their work.
Commissioner?
I'm just kind of curious. I know we've got time limitations on permits and approvals. Is that project still within the appropriate time frame for an approved project? Or are we getting pretty close to the end of the approval?
You know, I'd have to check on that. You know, it's an active permit. I know that our staff has been meeting with the contractors on a regular basis. So from my perspective, given the fact that there have been regular meetings, it's not as though there's been an interruption of activity. There have been regular meetings. Typically, if you have a circumstance like that, the permit is extended. So I know that, you know, as recently as last week, we had a meeting with the contractors in our offices regarding that project. So it's an active permit from our standpoint at this time.
Okay, thank you.
And just kind of an overview of some of the projects we're working on, and many of these you've handled in the past in a variety of ways, but I just wanted to provide you with a basic overview and update. On the Lennar project, the Cedar Mills project at 599 Cedar Avenue, they're working on the last two homes. So that's a 14-home subdivision that you're very familiar with. They've shelled in the last two homes there, so they're kind of in the home stretch to complete that project. The Pacific Bay Vistas, the Treetop apartment project we just spoke about. The next project, the Skycrest Center project. This is the Kenmark Realty project. They've come back in. Kenmark Realty came back in and met with our staff very recently, and they are working with D.R. Horton to complete the last 12 homes. In fact, we signed off, the city manager signed off on an assignment to allow that project to be transferred to D.R. Horton, and our community development staff met with representatives of both D.R. Horton and Kenmark Realty just within the last couple of weeks. So we've not received plans yet, but the indication from D.R. Horton is that they are going to build out the project in accordance with the approved plans, satisfy all the remaining conditions, and complete the project. So we're anticipating that they'll come back in with their construction documents in the near future. The next project, the Glenview Terrace project, that's a project that Pankow Architects is working on. It's located on San Bruno Avenue at 2880 and 2890 San Bruno Avenue. And that's a 14-lot subdivision. That's a project that Laura Russell is working on, and it's a project that we've had a series of meetings on in terms of possible adjustments to the overall development pattern. And so that project, I would say, is still under review and is not at a point yet to move forward with. It's under review. Another project, kind of a key project for our community, is the old theater site, the cinema complex at 406 San Mateo Avenue. And as you know, a project was approved for that site some time ago, and that project approval has lapsed. We have had interest by an affordable housing builder to pick up that project, and that individual has worked with a local representative of the owner. The owner is located out of the country, but there is a local representative that has been working with a not-for-profit housing developer. We've met with that individual. We've had some good meetings. The overall proposal, though, really didn't seem to be quite consistent with the transit corridors plan that was recently adopted in February by the City Council in terms of the overall mix. And so we're discussing further with the local representative other options to perhaps go out with an RFP and perhaps look at getting other interested parties to suggest how that site could be redeveloped more in accordance with the transit corridors plan and the overall city's vision for that site, that important gateway location. Matt has been working on a project, it's called the San Francisco Police Credit Union Project in the Bay Hill development area, and it's about a 68,000 square foot office complex for the credit union. That project too is under review. It's proposed to be about a three-story building with subterranean garage space. And at this point, the application is not quite deemed complete. Matt has had several meetings with the architect and representatives of the San Francisco Police Credit Union, and I think they're making very good progress in terms of addressing some of the staff concerns. And I would expect that in the near future, that application would be deemed complete. And then our next step would be to do an environmental review. And once the environmental review is completed, probably a mitigated negative declaration, probably, then that project would come forward to you for review. There's several entitlements involved there: a plan development amendment, a plan development permit, and an architectural review permit. And as you know, the City Council on February 12th approved the transit corridors plan. So next steps in terms of full implementation of the San Bruno Transit Corridors Plan would be to go forward with a citywide vote regarding Ordinance 1284, and that's something that staff will be working with the community on over the next number of months. We also need to fully implement the Transit Corridors Plan. We need to update the zoning code to bring in the elements of the Transit Corridors Plan into the zoning code, and Laura has been working on that. And we expect to move forward and have another study session on that in the near future. I'll kind of transition to the study session for a moment. We're kind of anticipating that a study session may occur with the Planning Commission next month. We had a number of subjects that we didn't quite get to at our last meeting, but we'd like to finish that up, probably do that with the commissioners, and then get your comments and forward those comments to the City Council for their input. And so I'm anticipating working with Laura and coming back to you in April sometime for a study session on the zoning code update. So again, in terms of going back to the transit corridors plan, that citywide vote and the zoning code update would be two important aspects to allow for full implementation of that. And then, as you may have noticed, very recently, in the last couple of days, the Malacca restaurant was taken down. A demolition permit was submitted to our department and issued Monday morning, and the G.W. Williams Company owns that property. They've indicated that that particular building they found to be obsolete, not really reusable in terms of economically being able to reuse the property. They had other concerns in terms of vandalism and cost of upkeep and security, et cetera. So they decided to apply for and were granted a demolition permit. and that building is nearly completely down at this point, not quite, but almost. And at this time, they do not have any specific plans for reuse of that property. Our staff is working with them to, after the building is completely down, to pave the site and then put a perimeter landscape strip on the San Bruno frontage, San Bruno Avenue, West San Bruno Avenue frontage, and on the Camino frontage. So that'll kind of soften the appearance for some interim period. And the interim period could be a while, because they're looking at the opportunity perhaps over time, as I'm sure you're well aware, for a larger redevelopment project at that corner. But during that interim period, what we were seeking is to, clean up the site and then provide some landscaping to soften it. So that's kind of an overview of some of the more key projects that our staff is working on, and I'd be happy to, or Laura and Matt could respond to any of your questions regarding current projects. Thank you.
Commissioner?
The Crystal Spring Apartments, a while back we did an approval for a clubhouse and to convert some existing structure into rental units. I see they've done the parking adjustment they were going to do. I see some construction on the conversion of that one structure to rental units, but I don't see anything else going on there. What's the status on that one?
They worked with staff to break that project up into 2 phases. So we broke it up into 2 separate building permits, so you're correct. They've put in the parking lot as well as doing the work on the conversion building, so that's being converted to 4 units. They needed to make a few adjustments in the site as they were working on it, so those have come back into plan check. So we've been working with them on those. And then the new recreation and leasing building is in plan check right now, like towards the end of the plan check process. So we're wrapping up some of the final requirements, and I understand they're bidding that project right now.
Cool.
So I would expect to be doing a pre-construction meeting with them shortly, and I think we'll see that in construction soon.
Very good. Thank you.
Commissioner?
Through the chair, is there a planned date for the vote on 1284?
There's not a specific planned date yet, but we are looking at possibly bringing that forward toward the end of the year, possibly in November, but there's not a specifically planned date yet.
Thank you.
Are there any more discussions?